Okay.
For some reason, the recording didn't go on.
It's
It
on.
doesn't give me the choice anymore.
It's always on.
Now it's okay. Okay. Sorry for that interruption. Okay, so we're on the bottom line of 79b, Ayin Tesamut Vase. And the subject that we started was about a soros. The Mishnah spoke about a soros, somebody that's sterile, and the show about chalitza. Some came out that Sris Chama, which the word we'll see today a little bit more why it's called Sris Chama, but something about being from birth. If he was sterile from birth, so then Rabbi Kiva holds that's worse. As far as chalitza could be that it's worse because he never had a time that he was fit, and somebody who became a sterile afterwards, Pris Adam, which the world calls a daka, so that might be better. The fact that once upon a time he was fit, and that was Machok Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Lezer said the opposite, that a Sris Chama is possible to heal him, and a Sris Adam is not possible to heal. That was the Machokis. So now we're at the bottom of the page. What is a Sris Chama? Echidam is Sris Chama. Rashi again told us that it means that it was from birth. And that's what the Gemara is going to say now, and maybe a little bit more. Amar Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Amar Rav Yochanan, Kol, Shep, Kol. Top line, Kol Shalaba Sha'achas B'Kashvusa, that he never was fit. He was never suitable. It means, as Rashi says, from birth. He was sterile from birth. And it seems that it was natural. You might talk about if it was not from birth, but it was not a disease, it was something that's really the other. Here the Gemara says that the definition of a Sris Chama is someone who is sterile from birth. How do you know that from birth? How can we tell that from birth he was sterile right away? How can you tell? If when he urinates, it doesn't form an arch. It means when he's urinating upward, it doesn't go with the force, like shooting out in a way that it should be an arch. It just drips. It doesn't form an arch before it falls to the ground. The word tells us some side information like what causes that a mother should give birth to a child who is sterile. So it could be other reasons also, but the Gemara says something about the mother being in when she's pregnant, that she's in too much heat. The afya ime b'tiara v'shasha shechramarka. The Rashi says translation is that his mother baked bread in the afternoon, means noontime when it's hot, next to an oven, also hot, means that she's in a hot environment. Shasya shechramarka, and she drinks a strong beer. Could be also something to do with the heating the body too much. If the mother, when she was pregnant, like it says on the thing that pregnant women shouldn't drink alcohol, these kind of things. So here it says about alcohol and being in too hot of an environment also might cause that the child born might be defected. It might be a stress, might be a sterile.
Tihara means
Noontime. The afya ime b'tira, his mother baked at noontime. Baked bread. Rashi says in the oven, next to the oven, in the middle of the day when it's hot, the day is hot, the oven is hot, and she's drinking a kind of beer. So the word marka, Rashi has two pshatim either means diluted or means strong, whatever the point would be, that these might have caused the pregnant mother to give birth to a defective baby that is sterile.
Two different things.
Two different things
Two
are
different
together.
I think altogether. I
Oh,
think
altogether.
I think what do I know? I think so.
So this is drinking alcohol. Wow.
Right. It doesn't say wine, it says dafka beer. I don't know. But it says these points there that might have caused it. Rav Yosef, I know the Shemana Le'imi, or some say La'ami. The Omar Kol Shemimei Imo Lokui V'lo Yadana Maynihu. This is what I heard Rav Ami, that we would call Rav Ami if it means Ami. That I guess because it's in if it would be in Aramaic, the rest of the sentence is Aramaic, so then it should have said in more Aramaic terms, but they say that it means Ami. I'm not sure. That I heard Rav Ami say that anything which is from the mother's womb, and I didn't know what he meant to say. Means that sometimes what? Lakui is the defective. He was defective from his mother's womb. So that means that he's going back to the beginning. He's not coming to say, he's saying to say the first line, that was called the Swiss Chama, that he's sterile from birth. So he heard Rav Ami say such a statement. He didn't know what he was talking about. You have the Gemara says this expression sometimes. We had it a couple of days ago. I'm of May, I'm of. I heard something, I didn't know what it was. Then later on, when I found out, so I put two and two together, that's what he meant. So I heard Rav Ami saying some kind of klal, anyone who was defective from his mother's womb. I didn't know what he's referring to. Now I know what he's referring to. He's referring to a Swiss Chama that Rabbi Yochanan said, what's a Swiss Chama? That he never was kosher. From birth, he was defective. Someone told me, my Chavrusa said that when the Swiss Chama, maybe the word Chama has to do with heat. Maybe that's what the Gemara says, that it's a result of the mother being too overheated that might have caused this resource, the sterility might have been caused by the heat. That's why it might be called the Swiss Chama. Swiss Chama would mean that it was the organs were manually physically defective, that something happened after birth, but if it happened from birth, it means because of the heat of his mother, that might have been the reason why the name is called Swiss Chama. Anyway, what did the Gemara say? That a Swiss Chama means that he was always, since birth, he's been sterile, and that's what Rabbi Kiva says in Ebad Hashasakosha. The Gemara's kasha v'leicha Hashem lahibri b'intayim. Even if you know in the beginning when he was born, we see that he doesn't urinate properly, so he was born a Saurus, and now we still see that he's a Saurus now. But maybe in between he became healthy. If the whole reason why Kiva says that the woman, that this man, there's no yibum, is because he's a Swiss from birth. But if Kiva would say if it was not from birth, if at any time he was fit to have children, so then he's not a Saurus, and there would be yibum. So how could you rely on the fact that he was born sterile, and you still see that he's a Saurus now? Maybe in between, at one time, he got healthy, and he got sick again, and then according to Akiva, if he had a shasa kosher, then he is chayv chalitza and yibum. So how could you rely on the fact just because in the beginning it was, and now maybe something happened in between, and he was kosher. And if he was at any time he was kosher, mukhshar, so then there would be a chiyuv yibum and chalitza. The answer is chivin the chilas of a sofa lokri lo chashina. If the beginning was like that, he was defective, and now he's defective, so we don't have to be choshed in between that he got healthy and got sick again. We can assume like a chazaka the meikora, chazaka the hashta. We see the beginning, we see the end, so we can assume everything in between was also the same. But there was a kasha sometimes else. We see that we don't rely on the beginning and the end. Sometimes we have to also have some proof that in the middle also the state was still status quo. Masiv Rav Mori. It says in the Mishnah, I think it's a Mishnah. Rav Chanin ben Atik Nesomer about Kenos Shalosh Pamim v'Soch Shmonim Yom. Over there, it's talking about a kind of a mum. Over there, it's talking about a mum. Actually, it's not a mission Bechoros, and it talks about a certain blemish in an animal. I think it's an animal or a human, but it says, I forgot what the animal or a human, but it says some kind of eye disease, and it says it's only a mum if it's 80 days in a row. Rashi brings down the point about both Kenoso with Bechoros. It's talking about Chavar Var, whatever that is. That's a kind of a mum in the eyes, and it says, what is it? Chavar Var Kavua. It has to have been there 80 days. How do you know it's 80 days? So you have to check once in the beginning, once in the middle, once in the end. It means it's not enough just to check the beginning of the 80 days and then 80 days later and it's still there. That means it's been there the whole time. You have to check in the middle also, or else it might have gotten better and then got bad again. So you see that you don't rely just on the beginning and the end. Here also, how could you just say because he was born sterile and he's still sterile, he always was sterile. Maybe at one time he was healthy. So the Gemara says, if there's only one organ, so then you would say that maybe he got better and it got bad again, but on the whole body, the whole man, the stability of the whole man, we're not going to say that he became healthy. If we saw that at the beginning he was sterile, the end it was sterile, is enough to assume that he was sterile the whole time. and that's called Sris Chama, and we can assume that he's not chayiv in Chalitza and Yibum, but not choshesh in between. He got healthy and then he got sick again.
What does aver mean?
Limb, organ.
An organ?
Over there, yeah, why not?
Well, I'm just wondering why psoris is considered the whole body, and why isn't that considered one organ?
Because I guess I understand. It could be, we're going to see soon that the psoris is a whole, it's not only that he has some blemish in the organ, that would be more like a Swiss Adam, if something happened to the organ, like if something was cut or something like that. It would be a nice question. What would be if it's something that's only in the organ?
Somehow they're taking
Because-
this to be a general problem with the
Right. The Gemara is going to show now. We're going to see a whole Gemara, and we'll see there are 9 simanim. Like this, you see the person is something's different about him. Like he hasn't developed his masculinity, not just something in particular. It's a nice point that if you see that he's not a saurus, he just has a problem with the organ. What is that going to be defined as? A Swiss Adam, maybe. Maybe it's not going to be called the Swiss Chama. The Swiss Chama is the person. The person is underdeveloped. He didn't develop his masculinity. The Gemara continues. New sugya. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Lochi. That's the Mishnah. We had Rabbi Akiva said that the factor that makes a difference to us for being chayiv chalitza or not is if he ever had a shasa kosher. It means if he never was fit, he was a Swiss Chama, then there's no chalitza. If he one time was and he became unfit, that's called the Swiss Adam. And there is a chayiv chalitza in Yibum. That was Rabbi Akiva. But Elazar said that the factor is, that was Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Elazar obviously says that the factor, the criteria is if he can be healed. That a Swiss Chama could be healed. This person who was born sterile, he could be healed. We'll see something about that. But a person who's a Swiss Adam, that means that the organ was cut, severed, or crushed, or so then then he cannot have a refuah. So that's why, according to Rabbi Elazar, that's the one who has no chalitza yibum, and the one who was born, even though he never had a shasa kosher, that's not the criteria. The criteria is if he is rectifiable, if it's possible to remedy him. The Marzakasha, Stephen Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says by us that a Swiss Chama there's no chalitza. That's what the Mishnah says. Yagzin Rabbi Akiva, Swiss Chama, there is chalitza because it's rectifiable, and Swiss Adam is no, they're not, because he can't remedy him. So the most that's a contradiction, because in the next Mishnah of Brisa, I don't recall, I didn't look up these things. It was a Mishnah of Brisa. I forgot, but it's going to show that he seems to agree to Rabbi Akiva that if he's a Swiss Chama, which means that he was from birth, so then there is no Yibum and Chalitza, which is not what he says in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah Yagner Rabbi Akiva, and this Brisa is going to show that he does agree to Rabbi Akiva that a Swiss Chama there's no Chalitza and Yibum. That's going to be the kasha. What does it say? Some of it is going to be things we know already, and it's going to be one word. We're looking here at Rabbi Elazar. That's highlighted it. That this part of the Brisa where it says Rabbi Elazar Omer, that's going to be the point that we're focusing on. But what does it say till there? Ben Esrim Shana V'Levi Shtei Saras Yaviu Rai Yishu Ben Esrim V'Hu Hasaras V'Choles V'Lo Miyavim. Here's talking about some. That's the little Akdama that a Saras, this person who's born sterile, he doesn't have pubic hairs. That's the olive base. It doesn't have pubic hairs. It doesn't grow by him pubic hairs. That's it. That's what I was saying before. That's something on the whole body. What? No, we're going to get to that in a second. First, he's 13 years old. Like a regular boy should have pubic hairs, 13 and a half, 14, something, but it didn't grow by him. Now, he's a service, like someone's wrong. He's not a regular person. He's not regular. His masculinity is not developing. If he comes to be, now the problem is also, not a question if he's a service, is he an adult? Means usually adulthood is not the bar mitzvah. Everyone just to make it, we said a few times already, the bar mitzvah party is not bar mitzvah. The kid is still a katan. He's only that from now on, from 13 years old, he could have the ability to become mature by having 2 pubic hairs. 2 pubic hairs grow after he's 13. So the bar mitzvah party is not really a bar mitzvah party. It's just like get ready. That he could really, the bar mitzvah party should be when he has 2 pubic hairs, but we're not going to do it according to that. We do it according to the birthday. But really, the birthday is not the point. The point is the 2 pubic hairs. Now this kid, he didn't have pubic hairs. So besides the issue about maybe he's a saurus, it starts getting nervous, but is he an adult? Is he an adult? He didn't get adulthood yet. Now, if he's a saurus, he could be right. So he could be an adult saurus, but he might be just delayed. He might be a regular kid that is a little bit delayed. He'll come a little bit later, but he's still a katan who didn't yet develop maturity. So here it says you wait till 20. By 20 years old, if he still didn't bring hair, still doesn't have hairs, then he's a saurus and he's a gadol. That means that it's part. He has the technicality why he's not bringing the hairs. It's not because usually that's considered maturity when he gets to that age. But he has the problem that he's a service. Doesn't mean he's not going to become a gadol ever. So it says if he's 20 years old and he still didn't bring shtei saros, so you have to bring also. Rashi says Rashi says according to Gemara Nida, that if you bring proof that he's 20 years old, you have to bring proof of his birthday, his birth certificate, that he's 20 years old. Oh, here we want to know that he's a Gadol Soros. So, and also Rashi says what Soros means, that he also has Simanei Soros. We're going to see soon there are going to be signs to identify that he's a Soros. And the words alone, I wouldn't have known that. Rashi says the Gemara neither says that's what the words mean. Means bring two things. Two things you have to bring. One is Raya Shehus Ben Esrim, and also that he's a Soros, which we'll see. It's a little bit not clear yet because we didn't see what the Simanei Soros are. The Gemara is going to say in Amud Beis there are 9 Simanim. We have one so far that when he urinates, it doesn't form an arch. That was one sim we had on top of the page. So,
the second symbol would be that he does have 2 hairs.
right. The first thing is it doesn't have 2 hairs. That's like the olive base. It doesn't have 2 hairs. And also he has to have simanim, others simanim to show that he's a Soros. Plus he's 20. So then that shows that he's a Soros.
2 hairs are part of the 9?
No. Lo cholos v'lo miyabim. Once it's verified that he's a Soros, so now lo cholos. Then lo cholos, there's no yibum, there's no chalisa because he's a Soros. So far, this is a Sris Chama, right? That's to point out. That's what we're looking for. This is it's describing a Sris Chama.
Right, because he was born that way.
He was born that way, and now he's 20 years old. He's still a Soros. Okay. Now it says the same thing about a girl. Tofah was about a boy, and it said the age 20. How about a girl? Also, the age 20. So a woman also has pubic hairs to show maturity, and this girl usually comes at the age 12. But here it didn't come till 20. She still doesn't have. That's going to be a proof that she's an adult and she's islandess. Rashi will say again that to bring evidence about her age and also the simanim of an islandess. We're going to see soon there are simanim also for a woman that she's an islandess. So then, once it's verified, then there's no chalitza because she's an islandess. And we know that the woman who's an islandess, the widow is an islandess, and then there's no purpose in making yibum. There's no mitzvah of yibum. He still says that the age is 20, both for a boy and a girl. Beishamai say, young's on the age. Everything's the same, but instead of the age being 20, it's 18, both for a boy and a girl. They came till the age 18, they don't have pubic maturity, so then we say that they're Soros. Rabbi Lezer Omer, here's what we're looking for Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer was a question in the Mishnah. He said over there that Sris Adam is the one that doesn't do Chalitza, but a Sris Chama does. But here, he talks the same language as Sris Chama. That he agrees to everything that it said, he just argues on the age. That the age is not 20, 18, 18. The age is 20 and 18. For a boy, 20, for a girl, 18. Because a woman brings physical maturity before a boy does, before a man does. Same way you have 12 and 13. So also when it comes to this age, it's not going to be the same age. The girl, if is 18, she doesn't have pubic maturity yet. So then we say that she's not going to, and she's a gedola, and she's an islandess, and a boy is not proven until he's 20. But anyway, what do you see? Rabbi Lezer is talking, and he's going with a Sris Chama, and he says there's no chalisa, no yibum, because by his Sris Chama. And Amish didn't say that. And Amish argued on Rabbi Kiva and said that the Sris Chama does have chalisa and yibum, just Sris Adam, because it can be rectified. And the Sris Adam is the one that cannot be rectified, and there's no chalisa. Here he's talking the language of Rabbi Kiva.
Yeah.
That's contradiction in Rabbi Lezer.
That's the end of the rest.
That's the end of the right stuff. Again, I still forget if it's a Mishnah or not. I don't remember. Okay. Amar Rabbi Bar Dikuli, Amar Shmuel, Chazav Rabbi Lezer, and Achnami, he retracted. There's a contradiction, good contradiction, because he changed his mind. And the Gemara is going to know which one did he change from. There's going to be another terrace. In a couple of lines, going to be another terrace. Rabbi Lezer, the more is going to say another terrace, and the next highlighted green.
I mean, whether it's this one or
Right. That there was 2 opinions. He had 2 opinions. He changed his mind. First, which was first, which was second. We want to know what his maskana was.
wouldn't we assume it means this the last one we said?
Why would you say that?
Because the order that
Well, that's we're quoting here.
I was just
But-
recalling that.
And also the Mishnah is not in order. Ein Seder the Mishnah. The Masechtas doesn't mean that Rebbe wrote it dafka in that order. Ein Seder the Mishnah is a cloud that he didn't write it dafka in that order. In our set, it's going to say Aleph Beis Gimel Daled Hey, that neither goes after yevamos, but not necessarily the Rebbe Yehuda Nasi when he wrote with the Mishnah. It doesn't mean that it goes dafka in that order to say that was later.
The Gemara brought it now.
That doesn't show anything. The Shoi doesn't show anything. We just want to know what a Mishnah is, right? That's because the Gemara quotes something doesn't mean that that's after. There are 2 Mishnahs. I've got some Mishnah of Bryce. Again, I'm sorry that I didn't look it up. But whatever it is, there are 2. I think Rashi calls it a Bryce
There
over
are
here.
2 laws.
Two sources of Rabbi Lezer spoke. So we don't know. It doesn't say on it what the date was. It wasn't dated. Just the Gemara brought it down and said we have a contradiction. So that's because the Gemara brought it down doesn't mean this was said later. We don't know when it was said. When did Rabbi Lezer speak? Rabbi Lezer spoke in the Bishmedrash in 2 different dates in year.
Okay.
Right? Makes sense? Am I talking sense?
Yeah,
There are two quotations from Rabbi Lezer. We have to know which was the second one that he said,
okay.
right? You know,
Because this is a quote that he retracted something. We don't know what it meant.
there are two quotations from him, and we must say one of them was the retraction, one of them was the second
And that
one.
would have been probably the second one.
The
We don't
second
know
one,
which
we don't know which was the
We don't
second,
know
right?
which is- okay.
So the Gemara says, from which one did he retract? Means which was the first one, and then he retracted, said the second one. Tashma the Tanya, Rabbi Lezer Omer, Sris Chama, Choletz, V'cholzin le'ishto, Shekain b'minan, Misrapin, V'lasandri Shal Mitzrayim. That's the end of the Brisa. Brisa says here, says first as a Brisa. Rabbi Lezer says that a Sris Chama does do Chalitza, and if he died, Chalitza to his wife, that means he's agreeing to Rabbi Kiva over here. Shekain b'minan, Misrapin, because in Alexandria of Mitzrayim, they know how to heal this type. The Sris Chama, b'minan, the type of Sris Chama, they know a remedy for it in Alexandria. It sounds like they didn't know, but in all places, but in Alexandria, they have a remedy. So that's why they said in our Mishnah that since it's rectifiable, that's the reason why there should be a chalitza. So
the end of that.
that's the end of the brisa. So the question is, what do you see? So we have another brisa. What does that show? Which was first, which was second? Not so clear. Not so clear in the Gemara. How are you supposed to figure out from here that this was the second one? Maybe it's true. This says the same thing as it says in the source we just quoted above, but maybe both of them were first and our Mishnah is later. So not so clear. Rashi says, one shot is that it's 2 against 1, so that we just have two sources. We have two sources that Lesson said this way, so it must be this is the one that he holds of more. And then Rashi says another shot that I forgot. I also don't understand. Rashi says the fact that he proved it from Alexandria. Okay, I don't understand the second shot because the point is not if the facts are true. The point is the criteria that he's has the remedy, or is the criteria that he had a shasta kosher. So I only understand one shot in Rashi, which is a little difficult. The fact that it has two sources. He said this is quoted 2 times. So the Gemara takes it that he was retracted from our Mishnah and he holds like Rabbi Kiva. So it comes out as Nomach Locus. Rabbi Lezer also gave into Rabbi Kiva that a Sris Chama does not have Chalitza and Yibum because there never was a time that he was a shasta kosher. And even though in our Mishnah he argued, he retracted. That's the end of that Gemara. And now the Gemara continues in Usagya, also about a Saurus. Itmar.
I'm sorry, what happened to Rabbi Lezer?
Oh, thank you. I skipped it. Thank you. And then it's the second terrace. The first terrace was that Rabbi Lezer retracted. Rabbi Eliezer retracted. And now Rabbi Lezer is Amora. Rabbi Lezer ben Pedas. And he's arguing with Shmuel. Shmuel, before 5 lines ago, said that Rabbi Eliezer, the Tana retracted. And Rabbi Lezer has another terrace to answer. La'olam lo hadabe. He didn't retract. The Mishnah over there, this source that it says here, that 20, 18, 18, and Rabbi Lezer says 20 and 18. It is true. The beginning of the Mishnah over there spoke about Chalitza and Yibum. It is true. It says Lo Cholos Lo Miyabim, and this Mishnah held in the beginning that a Sris Chama does not have Chalitza. That's true. But Rabbi Lezer, when he came to argue about the ages of 18 and 20, he didn't specify what he's talking about, but it doesn't have to be Dafka Chalitza. There are other reasons we want to know if somebody's a Saurus or not. It's not only relevant to the din of Yibum. It's true. Tanakam was talking about Yibum because that was his issue. And he held that a Sris Chama doesn't have Chalitza and Yibum. But even though Rabbi Lezer chimes in about the discussion of when is he deemed a Saurus or an islandess, not necessarily is he talking about the same ramifications. There are other ramifications. Like it says, La'onshin. La'onshin means, when is he going to be considered a Gadol? When do we know that he's an adult? It means if he's just a late bloomer, that he's not yet a Gadol, we want to know, is he an adult or not? In the beginning, he's 13, 14, 15. He didn't bring here, so he's still a katan. He's a minor. And then when are we going to decide that he's an adult? So it's true. Rabbi Lezer will tell you that the ramification that you said, the hashlachot that you said has to do with chalitza. I don't agree, because a Sris Chama, I say he does do chalitza. But there are other ramifications to this discussion. The thing of knowing when it's going to be verified that this is a Saurus is not only for chalitza. There are other ramifications also. So it's okay that Rabbi Lezer talks about the subject. At what age do we say that this is a Saurus? 20, 18. Even though this specific case that we're talking about, Chalitza, he disagrees with. He says this case is not going to be enough kamina because the Saurus Chama does do Chalitza. Makes sense? So don't take it just because Rabbi Lezer continues talking about what the subject about a male, a Zohar is 20 and a female is 18. That doesn't mean he agrees to the ramifications that were mentioned before. Okay, that was a good teretz. The Gemara continues now. New subject, also about a Saurus. Itmar, Achal Chayla mi ben shtei Misrei v'yom echad. I'd been Shmona Esrei. V'nol debo simani saras. Olacha mikan hevi shtei saras. I'll just put this in parentheses for a second, just to make it a little bit easier. I think, if I understood correctly, that here the question is, Rav Amar Lasa Saras Lamafreya, Shmuel Lama Katan Hayibosasha. This discussion now is not as much if he's in the halachas about a saras, but in the halachas about adulthood. Means we said that if he doesn't yet have pubic maturity, so he's not a gadol, 13, 14, 15. And then when he gets to his, let's say at age 15, now he has pubic maturity. So he's an adult from then on, right?
Yeah.
And 13 and 14, he wasn't. And he's a late bloomer, and now he's an adult.
Not a size.
Now, another source, but I want to know, oh, yeah, you're right. And I want to know, when did he become a gadol? When did he become adult? At 15, when he has the hair. Yes, Simon. Now the question is, when it comes on, and he doesn't bring hairs, he's 20 years old now, and he still didn't bring maturity. So what do we say? Verified saras. And gadol, he's a gadol also, right?
Yes.
From when is he a gadol?
Right.
Why?
Maybe from
Why?
13.
Maybe from 13? Because
Why
is he a gadol now?
maybe
Also,
he would have had Simone.
yeah, right. And now it's verified he's not going to have simanim. The reason why he doesn't have hairs is not because he was young, it's because he's a saras. So is there any reason to say 20? He becomes an adult? It just we didn't know. We had a suffix called that.
In terms of what?
Right. Is he right? And that's the case. If we go back to the beginning of this Gemara, Itmar, Achal Chelev, he ate Chelev. He ate Avidin Avera. Is he Chayv Korban? Did he do an Avera? So he, up till 12, up till 13, up till adulthood, he's not Chayv Korban. And now we don't know when he's an adult. Did he become adult at 13 or at 20? Here the case he was 12.
Right,
Here it says no.
And so you might say he's not 5 till 20, but he really would have been had he not been a son.
Shtei Mesrei. Now Rashi says the whole Gemara.
What does that
No, Yom Echad means a full year. Shtei Mesrei doesn't mean when you say somebody. Right, we call it 12 years old. Right. Now Rashi says the whole Gemara means a girl, and it's even though it says the whole thing in the masculine. Ben Shimon Esrei, Bo Simone, Soris, Mamish. It's all talking about a boy. But Rashi says the whole Gemara has to be understood. It's talking about a girl, because the age of 12 and 18 has to do with a girl. So even though it's a little dochak, I didn't see the other pshatim or not, but this time Rashi learns that it's talking about a girl, and ignore the fact that it says everything in the masculine. It should be written in the feminine. We're talking about a girl from 12 years old until 18, and then she got Simone Islandess. I changed a lot of words just now, but that's how Rashi says. And the question is now, from when was she achla? She ate chaylev from 12 years old until 18, and then she got simanim that she's an islandess. From when was she an adult? When she ate the chaylev, she was already 12 years old. But at the time, we didn't think that she's chayv chatas because she's a ketana. But then we see that it's not coming, and it came till age 18, and she still doesn't have hairs, so she's an islandess. So then maybe she was already an adult, even though she was no hairs at the time. But it comes out that there are not going to be any hairs, so maybe she's an adult.
Same case would be a boy.
Same thing, right? Exactly, right. Same thing. Just examples given. It should say I should have sent the bench Losha Srei Ad Ben Esrim, whatever. That would be the point. Or what?
Rashi is very difficult.
Okay, just that. Why does it talk about? Why does everything in the masculine?
13.
Right. Okay. Good. And
13
and 20. Okay. Good. But anyway, that's still what the Gemara was talking about. The main issue was the yellow highlight.
We want to know when were they an adult.
Right. Rav Amanasa says that Rav says retroactively we see that he had no hairs, and there's no reason not to say that he was not from age of bar mitzvah. And Shmuel would say no, that he's not considered a gadol until age 20, 18, whatever you want to say. And that these words of Elachim Hevi. I'm not sure which one you're going on. Here's the machlokes. No, that's not the point. 20, 18, whatever. That was the machlokes before. Beisol said 20, both for boys and girls. Beishamai said 18, both for boys and girls. Rabbi Elazar said 20 for a boy, 18 for a girl. That's all another subject. But now we want to know, do you say retroactively that he was an adult? Now we're not talking about a saras. We know that he's a saras. The question was he an adult retroactively or
just from now?
Then it was not retroactively in retrospect. That's the really way to say it. In retrospect, because not that retroactively something is happening. In retrospect, we look at it now that we say that he was an adult the whole time. The word retroactively means that something is activated now before. Nothing's activated. Just now, we understand that the reason why there were no hairs is because he was a saras, islandess. So therefore, in retrospect, he was a gadol the whole time. It's not the word, the mafreya, it doesn't always mean retroactively.
Well, retroactively, laws that would make him chayav would now kick in.
Right, that doesn't mean that. It means in retrospect. and looking back, we see that he was really a gadol. We just didn't know it.
The certain way I'm telling.
Oh,
The word retroactive and retrospect, I'm getting it right?
okay.
Retrospect means how we spectate, how we saw it, but not that anything changed, just we didn't know about it.
Retrospective. Okay.
Is there any opinion that says that this remains cut until the 20?
That's what we're talking about. Rav says that retrospect, he was a gadol the whole time, and Shmuel says that he was a katan until the age
I
20.
think he's blemished, so.
What does blemish have to do with being an adult? We don't know. We want to know when he's an
It
adult.
seems to be that blemish also affects his hormone and his emotional whole being. You know, that he's a son.
Why should that be a reason why he's not adult? A Soros can be an adult.
I hear what we're
They don't have the manliness of the womanliness of a normal man and woman.
So maybe
therefore-
they don't.
So then
have the
he
same-
should say at 20 also he should say that he's
No,
not adult.
because that's just like a technical thing, so that they can't take advantage of going out and doing a variance.
No,
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean technical? What do you
They're
mean?
not going and take a variance.
What do you mean
Still a
technical? What do you mean technical? Is he a katan or a gadol? Is he a katan? He's 20 years old, 25 years old, and he doesn't have. He's a Soros. Are you going to say that he doesn't have all that manlyhood, so he's not a gadol? He's a katan.
In a certain way.
So that everyone agrees that he's the gadol mikana love. There's no question from the age 20, he's surely going to be a gadol. That's what it seems to say.
Well, they say it because he'll never have simanim. He'll never.
Yes,
get
yes,
simanim.
yes.
And-
So no, so you're going
and
to
he'll
see.
never have
No.
issues,
No.
zichros and.
So you're saying that he's eternally, indefinitely
In a
going to.
way,
but in a way,
they have to place
Why do
him
they?
in-
Why do they have to?
Why do they-
I don't know. I'm
Okay.
thinking maybe so they can still function in a world that needs.
We're not talking about the Rabbanas. We're talking about killing him because he didn't have Avera. Like if he doesn't have Avera after age 20, we're going to say that surely he's a gadol. And the question is, how about from age? In retrospect, was he gadol the whole time? Is he chayv korban chatas from that time? Because in retrospect, he was a gadol. So there are two opinions. Rav says in retrospect he was a gadol the whole time. Shmuel says no, he's a katan until the age 20. Okay, let's read. Now I skipped the parentheses here. I think the way Rashi and Tosfos explain, I think, is that it means even. The Gemara is going to say a number of base, even if he gets, you might think that if he gets here is after age 20, so okay, he's mamish late. That's just no. Once it came to the age 20 or 18, whatever it's going to be, that's the deadline, and he's a Soros. And even if he's going to bring years afterwards on 21, 22, we're not going to say, oh, now he became a gadol and now he's not a Soros. No, he's already deemed a Soros, and the question kicks in, was it in retrospect from the age of bar mitzvah or not? So that's machlokes. Rav says even in retrospect, and Shmuel says no, only from now on is he a gadol. Till now he was a katan. Maskef Rav Yosef, the Rav, island is Rav Meir Yehei Lopnas. So this is a kasha on Rav. According to Rav, that says that it goes in retrospect. Island is Rav Meir Yehei Lopnas. So this is after we have to know other information from other masechtas, so we're not going to spend too much time. But it talks about the din of knas. If the onus and mafata is a knas, if someone raped a girl, so there's a knas. And the question is about an islandess. If she was an islandess, is there knas? Over there, Rav Meir says, Rav Meir holds that a ketana does not get knas and a bulgaris does not get knas. That knas that the Torah says defined, that Torah that was someone has to pay for rape, is only if she's a nara, which means between 12 and 12 and a half. But if it's less than 12, she's a ketana. More than 12 and a half is a bulgaris. That's already considered more mature. And the knas is only for a nara. So here,
What's the kanas for?
for rape,
Oh, the
A man who raped a girl.
The rapist.
the rapist has to pay knas.
That's 50 ksafim and he's got to marry the girl forever.
So here it says that Meir says, based on the mission that says that Meir says there's no knas for a ketana or a bulgaris, not for less than 12 or more than 12 and a half. So the question is, according to Rabbi Meir, an islandess will have knas. Why is that? Because if you say that in retrospect, she was Gedola, she was already a nara, she was a nara from the age 12, so then there should be knas. That's Kashan Rav. According to Shmuel, she was a ketana at the time, and a ketana doesn't have knas. But according to Rav, that in retrospect we say that she was a Gedola from the age 12, there should be knas. Amalei Abaye Mekadus,
There shouldn't.
there should be. Islandess Rav Meir Yehela knas. According to Rav, the Rav, an islandess, according to Rav Meir, should have knas. Rav Meir says that
Rav said that she was a.
that in
Rav said
retrospect
that
she's a
it was-
Gedola. And
She's a
Nasa,
Gedola.
right? So
And
if
now
so,
we're saying that she were a Gedola. When did this happen? When was? how
she
old
was
the island?
she was raped after 12 years old. And now we see that she was a Gedola at the time because she didn't bring hairs until
Later.
till 20. Does
Yeah,
Rashi
he
say all
said
this?
it's 12, it's 12
She
and a
didn't
half.
have-
Nara is from 12 to 12 and a half.
So she's a.
So she's a Gedola. The Rav
She's a
Amanas
Gedola and
Gedola
she brings
Freya.
a kanas.
Island of Meir Yehela knas 50 kesef. Island, and it says why it says in the Brisa, islanders ain't lo knas. That's the kasha. How come islanders doesn't get knas?
That's a Bryce.
And it says our mayor is over there because Katana ain't lo knas. But according to Rav, in retrospect, she was a gedola. That's the kasha on Rav. The more answers, that this woman, this girl, there was no Nara stage. Usually a girl has three stages: a Ktana, a Nara, and a Bulgaris. Till 12, she's a Ktana, 12 to 12 and a half. Usually she brings hairs by 12. So then she's a Gedola from 12 to 12 and a half. And then 12 and a half, she becomes a Bulgaris. That's already breast formation. Then she's already more mature. So Rav Meir says that she doesn't have usually Knas as a Ktana and not as a Bulgaris, only a Nara. And here the question was that according to Rav, a Nailanist, in retrospect, she was a Gedola, she was a Nara. The answer is no. This girl has no middle stage. She jumps from Katnas to Bulgaris. There's no middle stage. So the reason why she doesn't get Knas is because she was a Ktana. And even though now you say retrospect, she's a Gedola, not only is she a Gedola, she's also a Bulgaris. We give her the status of Bulgaris retroactively. So therefore it's not a kasha. That's how we answer the kasha on Rav. And therefore there's no Knas. Amalei, that was Rav Yosef asked the question, Abaye answered the question. Amalei, Rav Yosef, who was asked the question, he was very happy with the answer. Such good things they should say in my name. It's like the person would say, he blesses himself of Mirgazak, like that. But you said such a nice teretz, such a nice Torah. I should say such. They should say such good things in my name. And he remembered a brisa that says like Abaya, the Tanya, Ein Lasaras Nidon Keben Sora Mora, the Fishain Ben Sora Nidon Ela B'Chasim Azakon, the Tachton, Vein Alanis Nidon Skinara Marasa, Shemikat Lusa Yatsala Begeh. Mamish a brisa that says word for word. I'll say the whole thing, but we're looking for the last words that islandess does not have a din of a Nam Marasa. A Nam Marasa is different. They're not talking about Rav Meir's din about Knas, but there's a din of Nam Marasa, a betrothed maiden, Nara. And over there, he says the islandess doesn't have that because she jumps. She jumps from being a Ktana to being a Bulgaris. And that's mamish what Abaye said, that there's no middle stage of being a Nara. The beginning of
Nara is 12 to 12 and a half.
right.
The same Rav Yossi.
Bulgaris is past 12 and a half, usually breast formation, things like that, more mature.
Bulgaris and Gedola.
Gedola just means a Nara. Gedola and Nara is the same. Gedola means
Bulgaris is a Gedola.
Bulgaris is more than a Gedola. Gedola just means that she's an adult. An adult, it usually goes with the two pubic hairs. Usually from 12, two pubic hairs. Same way we say bar mitzvahs from 13 and 2 hairs. That's a Nara. Right. Nara and Gedola is the same thing. Right. And then, but this islandess, she doesn't have the middle stage. She goes from being a Ktana to being a Bulgaris. And he proved it from the brisa. So about your best yes.
Rav Yosef said this for a second brisa.
Yeah, Rav Yosef quoted the brisa. First, he had a question. He didn't know the answer. Abaye suggested the answer, and Rav Yosef said, "You're right." And there's a brisa that says like you. It sounds that now he remembered the brisa. Over there, the brisa says that a soros is not considered ben sora mora. Ben sora mora is from 13. He can't be. That's Allah where he stole from his father, and he ate wine and. Meat and wine, whatever the din of ben sora mora is, it's only between the age of 13 and maturity, more maturity. That's going to be like it says over here, Sakana Tachton, that he has a lower beard. It means the pubic hair is not just going to be 2 hairs; it's going to be a lot of hairs. That's considered already a lower beard, and that's called Sakana Tachton, the lower beard. And here it says that Saris cannot be a ben sora mora because he doesn't have Chasim Sakana Tachton. Now, the Lachori doesn't even have 2 hairs. He doesn't have 2 hairs at all, so he's not a Godel. And it seems even if he's going to be a Godel, so he can't become a Ben Sora Mora because he's missing that stage of adult where it's possible. It means the vulnerable age to become a Ben Sora Mora is only between 13 and 13 and a half. Similar to what we say between a girl 12 and 12 and a half. But here he doesn't have that. They have, that's a kasha. The Chasimus Hazakan is not the stage when he could become a Ben Sora Mora. Chasimus Hazakan is when it's too late already. That's the expiration date. Once he has Chasimus Hazakan, so then yes, then he can't be a Sora Mora anymore. So this line here about Ben Sora Mora needs more explanation. But the point we're looking for is that there's no middle stage by the girl. So that's to go back what we did to zoom out. We had a machlokas Rav and Shmuel when a boy or a girl is verified to become a saris and islanders at a later date. That we say that retroactively that they were godel from the age of 12, 13 or not. Rav says it goes to Mafreya, and Shmuel says no, the whole time he's considered a katan until age 20.
I mean, there's a nice Musaskil. from Rabbi Yosef, when he said a compliment to a buyer, you know, I mean, wished him well and wished himself well, immediately remembered them.
No, I don't think so. I think he didn't say that until he remembered it. He says it's a good thing because there's such a brisa. It means he didn't give the compliment until after he remembered the brisa. When Abai said this answer,
because he said the compliment he got.
No. The Gemara, but you do learn that to give a compliment and but it doesn't say that expanded. When he remembered the brisa, then he gave it a big compliment. The Gemara continues again. Rabbi Avohu. 4 lines at the bottom, 3 lines. Simone Sarah's violinist, and that's going to skip 2 words for a second. Simone Sarah's violinist, Einos and Maisahachu Ben Esrim. So we're talking about Simone Saras. We didn't learn that Simone Saras too much. We learned one so much so far about that he doesn't make an arch when he urinates. That's a simon. It means besides not having hairs, it's also a simon. It means everything's physical. He's lacking. Everything's medical. He's lacking the positive simon of having 2 hairs, and he also has something that shows there's a problem. So that's called, we'll see soon. So far I've only had 1. There's going to be another 8 of simonim that show that he's not regular. He's not. He's sterile. What?
What do you mean?
We're going to see. We're going to see, and I'm Beis another 8.
We will see soon.
We.
Got it. I thought it was a term you were saying.
So here it says that the simonim, even though they are simonim, even though this person has simonim that they're Sorosol islanders, but it's still not enough to prove them a service until they're 20 years old. Also means as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old. Even if he has all the simanim, it doesn't mean enough yet to verify him to be a service until he's 20 years old. That was the statement of Rabbi Avohu. And the Gemara is not going to talk about it. The rest of the Gemara is not going to say differently, but it does have something about the two words that we skipped. He says something else. Simon is service violinist, u ben shmona. And the rest of the Gemara is going to talk about the ben shmona. So what is a ben shmona? Ben shmona means a baby that was born in the 8th month of the pregnancy. And even though nowadays the baby is called a preemie and he could live, but that's only because they have the medical equipment to be able to do that. But otherwise, it was underdeveloped and cannot live. So,
what's the case?
A baby was born in the 8th month, premature.
He's born in the 7th, could live, and born in the
Right.
9th, but on the 8th.
Right. So nowadays, there's no difference between the 7th and the 8th. But the Gemara talks about that there was such a kind of a full term 7 months, which we don't have nowadays. But that's not our subject so much. It'll be a little bit of Amud Beis, but we're talking about here that he was born in the 8th month. So he's a premature 9-month baby. He's really a 9-month baby, but he can't a non-viable, right? So he can't live. So, but here it says that if he does live, you can't prove his adulthood until he's 20 years old. Which the Adosha Ascroll says that the Mefarshim are very difficult to say the Rashi's Pshat because it means you have a kid that was born a month early. Okay, he's an 8th month, but now he's doing fine. He's a year old. He's 2 years old. He's 5 years old. He's
the whole thing.
Everything's fine. No. But you want to know, is he considered viable? He's 19-year-old, big, strong boy, and you're not convinced that he's living until he's 20 years old.
Mikachai means can he live? Is that what it means?
Where are you holding? You're going further. I didn't do it yet. I just got up to here. I just said the pshat of these words. Here it says that besides the islanders and the service, also a ben shmona. Also, you don't consider him definitely an adult, or not adult, living. You don't consider him viable until he's 20 years old. So that's difficult. And there are other pshatim in the Gemara, but that's how Rashi learns that just like Saras and islanders, we're not convinced that there are Saras and islanders and a Gadol until 20 years old, even though they have simanim. Also, the ben shmona, something else altogether. Not do with Saras and islanders. He was born in the 8th. He was born in the 8th month of the pregnancy, so we're not convinced that he's going to live until he's 20 years old. Difficult. The Gemara is a kasha that doesn't happen. The Gemara is going to ask that it doesn't happen with love. Ben shmona michai, does the 8-month-old pregnancy be able to live? Means the Gemara says they're famous that the 8th month was premature and wasn't able to live with It's not going to get to 20 years old. It's not going to get to 2 months old. Yeah. Vatanya ben Shmona Kevin Vasil Talto on Shabbos. If he was born on Shabbos, so this kid is like a stone. He's not living, even though he's alive right now. He's not living, and it's muktzah because he's like dead meat. That the mother is allowed to crouch over him in order to nurse him because it's dangerous for the mother. The pashut is it's kind of for the mother. It's difficult for the mother not to nurse. She has to express the milk. So the child who's not really living.
whatever.
If she needs to, that it's not for the child, it's for the mother. Rashi does
And
this.
that's the end of the price.
Right. So what do you see? That child cannot live. She's muktzah. A
Yeah.
child is considered muktzah because
So
definitely
a
cannot
week
live.
later, the next Shabbos, 8 days later, you won't give him bris on Shabbos?
He won't
No,
be
no.
alive.
He's gonna die?
He's not going to be around. That's what the Gemara is saying. He's not going to. He's not going to live. He doesn't live. He wasn't. The point was he wasn't able to eat. He wasn't developed.
What happened?
No.
We're talking about on Shabbos, right? Don't move him on Shabbos.
Right.
But
Right.
she can lean over and.
And nurse and
for
nurse.
her
Right. That's technical thing about Shabbos.
Yeah.
But we just want to get out of this that he can't live. He's like a stone. So how could you say a case stays and he's not living? He doesn't live. The case is talking about that you see the full physical development. You see that he has, like it says right away, that his nails and his hair develop. You see he's a full-born baby. Now the question is, how did it happen? How did it happen? The Gemara is going to say because really he's a 7-month baby, and he stayed around a little bit. He lingered around a little bit longer. It means when you have an 8-month-old baby, not that he's a premature 9-month, he's an overdue
Old 7.
7 months.
Feed him and even give bris meal. Help him.
Yeah, he's gonna live.
But you're not sure he's going to live until he's 20 years old.
Wow.
That's the difficulty of the Gemara, according to Rashi. But that's why we're just going to get upset. How do you know? Why is he living? How's he living? The Tanya, Izel ben Shimon, one is an 8-month baby. According to Tanna Kama, if he wasn't a full-term pregnancy, Chadasha means the months of pregnancy. That it was not called Chadasha. If he didn't have a full month's pregnancy, 9 months pregnancy, or into the 9th month, so then it's not. He's called a ben Shimon. But Rebbe Yomer, that's Tanna Kama. But Rebbe Yomer, Simanim Mochichim Alav. If there are identification marks that could show that he could live, or that he's a ben Shimona. What is that? That if his hair and his fingernails are not yet developed when he was born, his hair, he has no hair and he has no fingernails. So then that's a ben Shimona, right? End of the brisa. Now the Gemara takes over. Time of the Lagamu, that Rebbe holds that if you do see developed hair and developed fingernails, so that shows that he is a viable baby. And even though an 8th month cannot live, it must have been he was a 7th month and he lingered on. He stayed in the womb even after his full term. So that's Pshat here also. We're going to go with Rebbe. The halacha that said that he could, the case that he could live, and we're talking about is he definitely going to live until he's 20 years old. But the case that he could live is only according to Rebbe that holds that if he has developed hair and cuticles, fingernails, so that's a proof that he is living. And even though he was born in the 8th month, he was really lingering around after he was 7th month.
Did you do Ishtahai?
He lingered on. He waited on. He lingered on. It means he wasn't born until a month later, but he really was a full-term 7-month baby. The Gemara goes on to ask Akasha that there's a Mandiyama, Rabbi Tuspa, that also said this far about lingering on, and coming out now, that's a machlokes. Tanna Kama doesn't hold that. Rebbe holds this thing about lingering on. Tanna Kama says that if it wasn't 9 months, so he's not a 9-month baby. You're not going to say he's a 7th month who's lingered on. The Marzakasha from Rabbi Tuspa, who does say this far about lingering on past the full-term pregnancy, means is it possible that a baby should stay in the womb past the full term? Is it possible? So Rebbe said yes. The Tanna Kama said not. And now the Marzakasha from an Amora, some say he's even after the Amoram, he's a abundance of a roy, he's called Tosfa, like the additional, he's after the Gemara already. There was a case where a husband, he had relations with his wife, and he went away for a year, 12 months. He came back, his wife gave birth after 12 months, or before he came back.
Your height is how many?
12 months.
12 months. Mhm.
That the husband went away for 12 months and she gave birth. She gave birth 12 months after the husband left overseas. So that's a big kasha. That's a big kasha. That means the kids are mamzer because she had relations. So Rabbi Tusva said it's possible that the baby lingered on after 9 months, 3 months more. I don't know what the postscript will say nowadays, but here it says that it's possible that it could linger on.
Wait,
So-
what's about Sharia?
and he said he's kosher. He's a kosher kid. He didn't say he's a mamzer.
What is
So
Shasa?
Shasta's Yachi is month, Shasta's year. 12 months of a year. Tracer Yachi Shasta. And he, how do you say it? Hashata Hacha.
In this year,
In the
we
brothers of
were
Bezek,
free
Hashata.
people. In this, and now
In
we,
this year, right? Hashata.
then we were slaves, now we are.
So you
Bob
see,
Shira, he made-
and he said he's kosher. Come on, Rebbe, Dama Mishta. Does it only fit with Rebbe who says that it's possible to linger on after the full term? Because according to Rabbanan, They seem to argue. The Gemara answers, that we find another opinion. It's true. Tanakam here holds you don't say that it lingers on, and this is only Rebbe. But there's another Tana also that agrees to that. Says since you have two Tanaim, so he's not a pasuk like them. Because you find Rabbi Shimon Gamliel agrees to his opinion that it's possible to linger on past the full term. The Tanya,
I don't understand. What does it mean?
the answer is Chibin. Till there is good. What are you holding?
Given the Iker Rabban.
Since it's Rabbi Shimon Gamliel that also says Mishtahi, also says it's possible to linger on. Kirabim Avad. So Rabbi Tisva did like the Rab, did like a majority. Not only one opinion, not only one opinion. It's two. So there are two people that say that already. Where do you see Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that? The Tanya, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer, Kol Sheshar Lamed Yom Ba'adam Eino Neifel. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that if the baby lives for 30 days, he's not a Neifel. He's not a non-viable. And Rashi says that we know Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is talking about even an 8th-month baby.
Oh, very interesting.
Why? Why is that a proof? Because he says that it's really a 7th month and he lingered on. So since we
They're
find
always holding that way. When he says this, Abed Karabim Abed, what does that mean?
Rabbi Tisva, who said that a baby could linger on after a full term, he holds like a rabbin, not only one person, Rebbe, two people. A rabbin is going to be more than one. That he find two people that hold like that, not only Rebbe, also Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. New point. That was all I got because of the Bryce. That's why I put in parentheses because it's not our subject really. We're talking about the Soros Islanders. It came in the Bryce also about a Ben Shmona, so we discussed that also. And again, the shot comes out very difficult that it's going to say that this baby that was born in the 8th month of the pregnancy, and he's also Kodolo of Sarov, that he also has hair and fingernails, and that's why we say that it's really a 7th month that lingered on. But we're not sure about his viability until he's 20 years old. That's a big problem, and the Rishonim Maskashas and Rashi, and they say different shot. But for us, we just got the simple reading. That's good.
No, I didn't get the last one.
Babies have some that die at very where before they have a bris. Before they bury them, they give them a bris.
Yes, but it's not mamash bris. It's based on a medrash maybe, but they do. It shouldn't happen to anybody. Yes, Chaim David.
Just the last thing you said.
That Gemara, the way Rashi is reading it is that a baby that's born in the 8th month and he has developed hair and nails, and therefore according to Rebbe he could have lived. It could be it's a 7th-month baby that lingered on. We're still not convinced that he's viable and livable only if he lives till 20 years old.
And one opinion says 30 days is already, we just read 30
No,
days is still
no.
viable.
Yes, but that still go back and say we're not going to be sure that he's viable until he's 20 years old, according to Rashi's Pshat in the Gemara Number Aleph. Here it just says it's possible to linger on. The fact that he was born in the 8th month is not a thing that he can't live, because it could be that it's really 7th month and he lingered on. That's all we go from that. But both Rebbe and Rav Shimon Gamliel, now the Gemara is saying that's not mamish 100% proof until he lives to 20 years old, which is very difficult Pshat, and the Rishonim have difficult. Ask on Rashi, say different Pshat. Tana Rabbanan. Now we got to the 9 simanim coming up. Tana Rabbanan. He says Saras Chama. Kolshu ben Nesim will be shtei Saras. This we know already. What's the Saras Chama? That he's 20 and he still didn't bring 2 hairs. Even if he brings 2 hairs after 20, he's verified to be. He's confirmed to be a Saras at the age of 20 without hairs. A regular Saras to hold the verb that makes him a Saras. 20 years old and no hairs. But here it talks about simanim also. Velu and simanim. These are the simanim. Now we're going to talk about the simanim of a man who is going to be confirmed as a Saras. Before the Gemara says simanim is not enough until you have 20 years old. So you have to have simanim also.
I thought we said they're late bloomers.
No, a late bloomer means that he's not a Saras. A late bloomer means that.
That he brought in 2 hairs later. So what does it mean even if he brings in?
No, this is after 20. Late bloomer is still 20. Late bloomer
is after 20.
That's what it says, right? Culture ben esrim bloody. But if he brings after 20, then it doesn't change anything.
Okay.
We'll just put that in parentheses over there. Filu doesn't change anything. He's a Saras because it was 20, and he still didn't.
20 years is going to be considered
A Saras. But it says also about simanim also. It means there has to be simanim. We're going to see soon if he has that. We'll see. Eilu and simanim. Now it's going to have a list of 9 things. The first, Kol Shein Lo Zakan. First, he doesn't have a beard. If he has a beard, that's not the symbol is he doesn't have a beard. He doesn't have a facial beard. Vesaro loco. Also, that his hair is also smitten. What it's going to be? So they say that it's going to be either very thin, not regular hair. The hair on his head.
Those people you see them, they're all clean skin. They have no hand in hands.
That's it. Doesn't necessarily mean yet that he's a soros. Here it says one is there's no beard. Second one is the hair on his head, which he does have, but it's not regular hair. It's defective hair. Pesora machlik, his skin is smooth, very smooth skin. They say like a woman. That's three. Also, his urine doesn't cause a foam, which I don't know what that means exactly. What foam is that? What does it mean that there's a foam? Rashi says the word that means the foam. So what does it mean that the urine?
There must be a chemical in the urine.
That's missing. That's missing. And there is a foam by a regular man. There's a foam. But this we had this is the beginning of the day that when he urinates, it doesn't form an arch. It doesn't come out with a power. It just rips. It doesn't have a power to make an arch.
Is this the fourth or fifth? The one about the foam is this.
The fourth.
That's the fourth.
And the fifth is that the urine doesn't form an arch. That his semen is doches. So they say actually like it's watery. It's not thick. It's not a thick consistency. It's more watery. Some say that if his urine doesn't putrefy, that if it's when he urinates, you leave around the urine, does it become more acidic, more fermented? So if it doesn't, that's also a sin. If he washes in this winter and it doesn't cause vapor, means when a person by body heat, the fact that he's washing in the winter and the body heat should cause that there should be some kind of a vapor around his body, but he doesn't have enough body heat to cause that vapor. You can't tell in his voice if it's a man or a woman. It's a very thin, feminine-like voice. That's if you count it up, you have 9 simanim over there. Now it goes the same thing about a woman.
Probably all them together.
That's in the third wide line. We're gonna have machlokas over here. That's gonna come up. That's the next sugya. Does it have to be all of them or any one of them? That's gonna be the sugya coming up. Before that, the Brisa finishes off about a woman. Vezahi islandess. So again, the same thing about 20 years old without shtei saros. Kol shiva sesu v'layvia beis saros. That she came to the age 20 and she doesn't have 2 pubic hairs. And even if she did bring hairs after the age 20, it doesn't change anything. She's still islandess because she didn't have hairs until age 20. And also the simanim. These are the simanim. Yet they're going to be 4. They're going to be 4 simanim for a woman to be considered an islandess. She doesn't have breasts. There's no breast formation. Rashi says the word miskasha means not hard, but it's difficult. That marital relations are difficult for her. You might say miskasha means that something hardens, maybe, but it doesn't. Rashi says just means that it's difficult. She has pain or it's difficult during tashmis. And maybe others might know that it means that she hardens. She doesn't have the regular lower. The Rashi says that the trunk of the body, so then by a woman it becomes more indented. So she doesn't have that. She doesn't have shipulim mayim, as women do have. That her voice sounds like a man, that she has a thick voice like a man, a manly voice, and you can't tell the difference. It's something between. So that those are the 4 simanim. And now the Gemara asks for Ravon's question. Are we talking about in order to be considered a service?
She doesn't have the problem with the urine.
That's not right. Interesting. It doesn't say those tests. Those are not.
She doesn't have.
It doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have anything to do with machmitzin. He might say the same thing. He might have said the same thing about machmitzin and these things. That causes a foam. I don't know. I don't know why he doesn't mention those. Yes, please. No. Second, third wide line. Itma simoni saris. Ravuna amma achi kulam. Rabbi amma afilu bechanan. This one that we said, Rafuna says, in order to be deemed a source, it has to have all of them, all 9 of them, all 4 of them. Even one of them is considered a simon source, any one of them. But the Gemara says, now the Gemara takes out the word bazakan. If you have the word, it makes a little difficulty, but we'll take out the word bazakan. Shtei saris. So we said before that the whole thing starts off only when there are no hairs. So here he says, if he does have 2 hairs, then everyone would agree that in order to become a saris, he's only going to be a saris if he has all the simanim. Means even though we started off, the whole thing was that saris doesn't have 2 hairs. And then the question was also other simanim. So here he says if he does have 2 hairs and he has all the simanim, he's also going to be a saris. But the machlokes is when he doesn't have 2 hairs. Keep he doesn't have 2 hairs. Then the machlokes is 1 siman is enough to make him a saris, or you need all the simanim. But if he has 2 hairs, then everybody would hold that he's only a saris if he has all these simanim, or by a girl, all 4 simanim. And the Gemara asked a question about a story. I knew baby of Nachman, it seems that Rav Nachman, we don't know about this, but here it seems Rav Nachman was had a lot of simanim like a Saurus.
He himself.
He himself. And it says Rabbi Baravua wanted to marry his daughter to him, but he wanted to make sure he's not a Saurus. So Rabbi Baravua said, check him out if when he washes in the winter, if there's a vapor around him. Means he was looking to not go off one of the simanim. And he says, if that's not if he doesn't have that problem, so he's not a Saurus, I'll give my daughter to him. So that's the Gemara's asking. This is Kiman to Avuna. Is that like Avuna who says that Ashi Yukula? According to Yochanan, even one simon is a simon. So that's because he's has a vapor around him when he's washing in the winter. Okay, so one down, but there are not 8 others. So how come he's not chosh that he's a Saurus? It must be going like Avuna that says that he only is a Saurus if he has all of them. So the Gemara says no. Like we just finished saying that if he has 2 hairs, then everybody holds that it's only a Saurus if he has all of them. That's the Gemara's answer. That Rav Nachman did have 2 pubic hairs.
So that was
That's the
in his
answer.
favor.
Lo, Rav Nachman Siki, the Gemara takes out this word again also, takes out Dikna. He takes out the word Zaken 2 times, by the Aleph and by the base. Siki Havyale, that he had spikes, means not, it means the Gemara is calling it that he had 2 pubic hairs. That's how the Gemara is calling it, like not, maybe it wasn't regular hairs, but it was something. Siki, that's some protrusion. There were two pubic hairs, and therefore it wouldn't be a Saurus only if he had all Simone Saurus. And therefore, Rabbi Baruch said that if he has one,
And
yes, everybody, thank you.
But not that we know who his children are.
Do we know his children or not?
I'm thinking if
There's so